Welcome to English Storyteller channel. Hello everyone. What would you feel if one night the stars suddenly disappeared? In today's story, we follow Dr. Tomas Streyer, a scientist whose experiment brings darkness to the sky. But this is not only a story about science, it is a story about fear, guilt, hope, and the long wait for light to return. Don't worry, I will speak slowly and clearly, and there will also be subtitles on the screen to help you follow the story more easily. So please relax and enjoy the story, and while you listen, try to find the answer to this question. How long did Tomas wait before the first star returned? Write your answer in the comments in English when you hear it. Okay, let's begin.
Dr. Tomas Streyer stood in the control room and looked at his team. Around him, scientists and engineers watched the screens and the machines. Some looked excited, some looked afraid. Tomas felt both things at the same time, but he tried not to show it on his face. In only a few minutes they might learn something wonderful. They might find a new way to understand how the universe began. He turned and looked out of the window. Outside, it was a beautiful summer day in Switzerland. The sky was clear and blue. The fields and small towns above the long machine were quiet in the warm light. Tomas took a slow breath, then another. He wanted his hands to stop shaking. "Ready," he said. He pressed the first button. At once the computers woke up. Lights flashed. Fans began to turn. Screens filled with lines, numbers, and signs. The room, quiet only seconds before, was now full of the soft sounds of powerful machines. "Set," he said. He pressed the second button. Deep under the towns and fields, the great particle accelerator started to work. It was huge, hidden under the earth like a metal river. Tomas had spent years of his life on this moment. He had dreamed about it in the day and at night. He had checked every part again and again. Everything had to be right. "Go," he said. At exactly 12 o'clock, he pressed the final button. For one strange second, everything disappeared. Tomas could see nothing at all, not a little light, not even the light from the screens. It was not like closing his eyes, it was deeper than that. It was as if light itself had gone away. He gave a loud cry of shock. Then, just as suddenly, the lights came back. The room was bright again. The machines were still running. The screens were alive with numbers. Around him, people gasped and called out to each other. Tomas stared ahead, his heart beating hard in his chest. That had not been part of the plan. He did not know what had happened. "Everybody, check the systems," he said. His voice was stronger now, and his team moved at once. They looked at screens, touched keyboards, and called out results. But no one found a problem. The machine seemed fine. The systems were working. The experiment was still running exactly as it should.
"Thomas?"
said his assistant. He turned to her. Her face was pale.
"Look outside,"
she said softly. She sounded truly afraid. Tomas went to the window. The lovely summer day was gone. Outside, the sky was darker than the darkest night. It was not gray like a storm, it was thick, black darkness. And the worst thing was this: the sun was gone. There was no sun, no moon, and no stars. There was only black sky above the earth. For a moment Tomas forgot how to speak. Then sounds came from everywhere. People in the building shouted and screamed. Some grabbed their phones and called their wives, husbands, children, parents. They were afraid their families had disappeared too. Tomas felt his chest grow tight. It suddenly seemed hard to breathe. He counted slowly to 10 and forced himself to breathe in and out. He sat down at the main computer and began to read the information from the experiment. Numbers moved across the screen. He searched for anything strange, anything that could explain the darkness outside. But he found nothing. Nothing on the screen told him why the sun had gone. Nothing told him why the sky had turned black. Then fear won over thought. He ran for the exit with the rest of his team. Outside the building, everyone stood together, confused and shaking. Scientists, engineers, workers, visitors, everyone had come out into the open air. The darkness felt wrong, heavy, like a wall around them. People turned on the lights on their phones to see each other's faces. Some people ran to their cars and switched on the headlights. They parked close to the entrance and made a small circle of light so people could stand together. Soon the street lights came on too, but they did not make anyone feel much better. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what to do. They could only wait. Then, almost 20 minutes after Tomas had started the machine, something changed. Far above them, warm yellow light came back to the sky. The sun was there again. The blackness opened and the blue day returned. The air felt soft and normal again. People laughed, cried, and held each other. Some danced like children, others dropped to the ground and thanked God. Tomas stood still and felt his breath come easier. For the first time since noon, he felt he could breathe like a normal man again. But the true fear did not come until later. Hours later, when real night came, people looked up again. The moon rose. A few planets could be seen, but there were no stars, not one. The whole world stared at an empty sky. After that, nobody cared what Tomas's work was really about. Nobody wanted to hear about science, particles, or the beginning of the universe. To most people, those things meant nothing now. They only cared about one thing. After Tomas turned on his machine, the stars were gone. The newspapers gave him a new name. They said he was the man who stole the stars. Soon he was taken to the International Criminal Court. The whole world watched. In that cold room under white lights, Tomas sat alone and listened as people spoke about him like he was the worst man on earth. When the judge asked for his answer, Tomas stood up and said,
"I'm not guilty."
The lawyer for the prosecution looked at him.
"If you did not steal the stars, Dr. Streyer,"
He said,
then what did you do?
Tomas tried to stay calm.
If you are asking about my work,
He said,
we did not really do anything wrong. We only showed that the machine was working.
A quiet sound moved through the room. Some people laughed in anger. The lawyer's eyes grew hard.
Taking the stars from the sky seems like nothing to you?
That is not what I mean.
Tomas said quickly,
In our test room, for one moment, there were no photons.
The lawyer frowned.
We are not all scientists here. Use simple English. Dr. Streyer,
Light.
Tomas said.
For a moment. It was as if there was no light in our lab. Then we saw it was dark outside too. Later, the light became normal again.
normal?
The lawyer repeated. He looked down at his papers.
The sun went out for exactly 16 minutes and 40 seconds. The rest of the day may have looked normal after that. But the night has not been normal since then, has it?
Tomas lowered his eyes.
No,
He said,
I know that. But you must believe me. I did not do anything that could truly take the stars away.
The lawyer stepped closer.
So you're saying you did not steal the stars from us? No, Tomas said. I did not steal them.
The lawyer waited, then said,
You only made it so we cannot see them anymore.
A long silence filled the court. Tomas had an idea in his mind, but it was only an idea. He could not prove it. Not yet. and if he tried to explain it, most people would not understand. Others would not believe him. He thought about darkness moving like a wave through space. He thought about light and distance and time. He thought about how many years it might take before anybody knew the truth. In the end, he stopped fighting.
Yes,
He said quietly.
I'm guilty.
The world needed someone to blame, and now it had that person. But putting Tomas in prison for many years would not bring back the stars, so they made a special punishment for him. They sent him to work at the extremely large telescope in Paranal, high in the mountains of Chile. Once people had traveled there to look at the beauty of the night sky. Tourists came to see the stars. Scientists came to study distant parts of our galaxy. But no one came now. There was nothing to see except the moon and a few planets. Looking up only made people feel sad. Tomas accepted the punishment. He believed he deserved it. Life there was almost the same as prison. He was alone most of the time. The mountains were wide and silent. The air was dry. The nights were cold year after year. Very few people visited him. In time, the world forgot him. Or maybe people simply decided they did not want to think about him anymore. Still, Tomas kept watching the sky. Every evening he watched the sun go down. He knew the sun did not truly disappear. At the same moment he stopped seeing it, its light still took time to reach Earth. After sunset, the red ball was gone exactly 8 minutes and 20 seconds, after it had really passed below the edge of the Earth. This small fact gave him comfort. The laws of physics were still the same. Light still moved at the same speed as always. He often stood outside in the cold air and whispered to himself,
Maybe I did not change the universe so much.
Then he would think about his idea again. If light had a speed, maybe darkness did too. Maybe the darkness from that terrible day had moved away from Earth like a wave. Maybe it had passed the sun and kept going, farther and farther out into space. Maybe it was traveling across the galaxy. Maybe it had gone over the stars, hiding their light for a time. And if that was true, then one day, after enough time, their light would return. There was no way to prove it then. Not with the tools he had, not with no one beside him. So Tomas kept the idea in his heart and told it to no one. Each night in Chile he pointed the enormous telescope at the same place in the empty sky. People would have said it was foolish. There was nothing there to see. But Tomas kept looking, and every evening, as the sun went down, and night slowly covered the mountains, he remembered a little song his parents sang to him when he was a child. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight, I wish I may, I wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight. For 1,596 black nights the sky did not change. That was nearly 4.5 years. Still, Tomas did not give up. He counted the days carefully. He imagined the darkness racing away from Earth. He thought about the nearest star, Alpha Centauri. Its light needed about 4.5 years to reach us. If the darkness had moved out that far, then perhaps the star's light would need the same time to come back. So he waited 1,596 nights for the darkness to reach the nearest star. Then he waited 1,596 more nights for its light to return. Of course, all this was only true if his idea was right. If he was wrong, then the stars were gone forever, and he was only an old man alone in the mountains, watching an empty sky. Then, one night, 1,596 nights later, almost 9 years after the day the sky went black, Tomas lifted his head from the telescope and looked up. There it was. A small, clear point of light shone in the darkness. Alpha Centauri. The first star had come back. For a moment he could not move. Tears filled his eyes. His mouth shook. Then he smiled, a small broken smile, and looked at that tiny light as if it were the most beautiful thing in the world. He remembered the old song. He remembered being a child. He remembered the empty sky and the years of waiting and silence. Then, under the dark Chilean sky, Tomas made a wish, and far away in cities, villages, deserts, and by the sea, he imagined millions of other people looking up, seeing that first star, and making their wishes too.
So, how was the story? I hope it helped you enjoy English in a deeper and more memorable way. And now, let's go back to the question from the beginning. How long did Tomas wait before the first star returned? Did you catch the answer? If you did, write it in the comments in English. A small step like this can help you practice English more naturally and remember what you learn more clearly. Before we finish, let's look at a few useful words from the story. A photon. A photon is a tiny unit of light. For example, Tomas said that for one moment there were no photons in the lab. The prosecution is the lawyers who try to show that someone is guilty. For example, the prosecution said Tomas was responsible for the missing stars. A galaxy is a system of millions of stars. For example, scientists study distant galaxies through powerful telescopes. A telescope is a long metal thing with glass at one end which people use to look at the stars. For example, Tomas used a telescope to watch the empty sky. A particle accelerator is a large machine that does physics experiments with particles, the smallest pieces that everything is made of. For example, the strange event began when the particle accelerator was turned on. These words can help you understand the story more clearly and build your science vocabulary in English. On this channel, I share slow and clear English stories to help you improve your listening, vocabulary, and understanding step by step. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can also join as a member. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next story. Bye.